Hope you guys are having a good day. As you can tell, I'm back out at the park. It is an absolute beautiful spring day today. And today we're going to do a test of zoom lenses because a couple of weeks ago I posted this picture followed by this picture showing the zoom level of this camera right here. It's the Lumix ZS60. It's a little pocket camera. It's about 10 years old, and I showed it fully all the way out and fully zoomed all the way in. And I wanted to do a test today showing the zoom levels of my different cameras. So we're going to be showing the zoom level of this camera. We're going to be showing the zoom level of my phone, the S24 Ultra, and we're going to be showing the zoom level of my Micro Four Thirds Lumix G95D. We're going to be showing both the 12 to 60 lens that's on there now and the 100 to 300 that's on there. And we're going to see how the zoom looks on all that. So I'm going to take some pictures with all of them. They're all going to be set in automatic mode. I'm not going to do any kind of after processing or anything, automatic mode only, and we're gonna see what these look like in zoom, because I do a lot of zoom shots where, like especially at like sunset, I'll do a sunset shot of the wide sky and then zoom in on something in a far off distance. And we're gonna see how that kind of zoom looks on these drastically different types of cameras. So if you're ready, let's go. So aside from taking the photos today on the tripod, we're going to be doing everything via remote, so I'm going to be triggering all the cameras via some sort of remote. So it's going to be an automatic mode, it's going to be on a tripod, and it's going to be triggered remotely. And we are aiming at a concrete pillar way over there, and we're going to see what kind of details we can get with that. All right, those are the shots with all three cameras. Let's head back to the studio and see what they look like. Okay, so we are back at the studio, and I have taken the photos and I have put them into groups and marked them with names of like what they were taken with and stuff like that. But keep in mind, none of this has been modified. I have not ran any of the pictures through any sort of programs or anything like that. We are just looking at the general zoom and why you would choose each one of these and the difference between them. So let's take a look. All right, so we're starting right here, showing the G95D at the 12 millimeters. So it's fully out on the 12 to 60, and that's what it looks like on a 12 to 60. And the second one is the ZS60, and we're showing it all the way out at 4 millimeters, which is its fullest all the way out. Then the Samsung we're looking at in two ways here. We're looking at is 0.6, which is its ultra wide, and it's regular. So if we're talking about just the regular 1X, so we'd be comparing this to this to this. So those are the three on that, but I do have the ultra wide that I use on stuff, and I do have an ultra wide for the Panasonic G95D that I do that gets a similar shot to this. But this is where the base where we begin with on these. And next thing we're going to do is we're going to jump into the next folder, which is like the first level of zoom. So this is the 12 to 60 zoom at regular length. So this is the first lens zoomed all the way in as far as it goes, and I can click on this and double, and you can kind of see what it does there. It's not too bad. Then the next one is the G95 with the 100 to 300, and this is the 100 length on it. So this is what the 100 looks like. So those are the two lenses at their widest. All right, so now we're looking at the ZS60 at what would be its maximum on optical, not digital. So we're looking at around a 720. I grabbed it at that. That's the exact number it grabbed, but I was shooting for 720. And this little camera, because it has such a big lens to it, even though it has a tiny little sensor, it does pretty good. So we move on to here. This is the S24 at 3x on the regular lens, and we also then have 5x on the regular lens. And it doesn't do too bad. It's okay at best. And, you know, that 8 millimeter the focal length that it has, and then cracking that all the way up to where it's like 69 millimeter, stuff like that, you're still not getting X. It's, you know, it's still at a 3x. You're not all that great. And again, at the 5x. And none of these, I think, excel in what they do at this point. I think they're close. My choice is always going to be the G95D with, you know, either the 12 to 60 or the 100 to 300. 100 to 300 I absolutely love. But here's where we're going to get into the stuff that's a little bit more. These are the max zooms on some of these. So this is the 300 by itself all the way out, and I don't even feel that I got a good picture here because that 300 zoomed all the way out always gets a good photograph in my opinion, and this isn't quite sharp. Again, everything was done on automatic, so I think I lost a little bit there. So the next one is the 300 millimeter, but then it also has a 1.4 times teleconverter in it, and we're going to see the teleconverter on the other, and it does get you in there a little bit better, and it does okay. It doesn't do too bad, and again, I have taken better pictures with this if I'm putting it on manual and tweaking a little bit and taking some time with focus. Everything was done automatic on this. Then we move on down to the ZS60. This is at the 35 millimeter print. We already looked at this on the other one. So this is the 720, which is the full optical. And then we take that and then we double it with the 2x eye zoom, and it doesn't do too bad. So that's a 720 optical with a 2x eye zoom, which is kind of like that digital teleconverter in a way. And that's why that little camera does what it does. It's not, you're not going to compare it to a high-end lens or anything like that, I promise you that. But that's why I did that picture the other day with the airplane, because that little camera with its 2x eye zoom on top of that 720 optical, it does pretty good. So here's where it gets different and why I picked to choose those two zoom lenses over anything on my phone. So this is a 30 times zoom, and it's way into digital. So it's the best that I can compare it to is that it's a 5x optical on that 12 megapixel lens zoomed in with a 30x, and then we take that and we go 100x, and you can really start to see that the computational photography takes over and does all kinds of crazy stuff. And that's why I don't like using the phone for zooms. That's why I prefer to jump into some of these. Like I said, that little ZS60 on the things it does, there's the 720, and then there's the eye zoom connected, and I don't think it does too bad, but you do get a little artifacting here and there on some of the stuff. And like I said, it is not perfect, but like I said, it does do a little bit. But again, if I had my choice, I know I get more detail with this, even though this is not very well in focus. That 100 to 300 on the G95D, I think does the best. And there's kind of the comparison. And again, I don't mean to, say that these are not equal comparisons. They're not, because it's not millimeter to millimeter. It's about what do you want to take a photograph of, and how can the camera that you have do that. And that's kind of why I've chosen the ones that I've done, is that little pocket ZS60, it's small and has a great zoom, and I can always throw that in the truck, and I can always have a good zoom with me. Not the best, not even close to the best, but a good zoom. But there's other days out that I can take that 100 to 300 and get some crispy photos of birds and different things like that. But that was the whole purpose of this whole thing, showing you that the things you have, you don't necessarily have to spend $1 zillion on things. You can kind of take some of these and do what you want with them. So as always, I hope that helped. If you have any questions about any of this, or if you want to see me do more comparisons like this or redo this comparison in a different way, let me know in the notes below. Leave a comment, like, all that kind of fun stuff. So until next time, take care and God bless.
This video is sponsored by immj. For all my print-on-demand creations like t-shirts, mugs, posters, original photos, my book, The Creative Virus, or what gear I use, visit the shops on immj.com or my Amazon, eBay, or Etsy stores.